janitor is about to leave the school when he hears a loud thud in one of the rooms. Upon checking, he finds a young student grasping for breath. The janitor tries to call for help, but another girl with bloodied hands appears and tells him to run. A few days earlier, a high school student named Riley and her dad Chris, who is an English teacher, have just moved to a new town, and today is their first day at their new school. One of the students named Kyla enjoys photography and is taking candid shots for the yearbook when she notices the new English teacher. She gets interrupted by another student named Trisha, asking her to take their picture. Trisha notices the new teacher too, and she mentions how she wants to have a piece of him. She smirks and claims she'll have him wrapped around her finger in just 2 days. During Chris' class, Kyla can't help but be infatuated by their new hot teacher, but so is Trisha. She starts her flirtatious move on Chris, making Kyla roll her eyes. After class, Kyla heads to the computer room and runs into Riley. They introduce themselves, and quickly get along when they realize they're both into art. That's when Kyla learns Riley is the teacher's daughter. Right away, she asks if she can come over to her house sometime to study English with her during the semester. Kyla is already fixated on Chris that she even snaps a photo of him secretly in the parking lot. Later that day, Kyla finds out that her mom Jess has a date with a guy she met at the grocery store. While Jess gets ready, Kyla can't stop daydreaming about Chris. She later goes to her new friend's house where they eventually talk about Riley's mother. Riley shares how her mom cheated on Chris for a very long time, which led to their separation. Kyla also shares that her father left when she was 6, and the two bond even more after realizing they both come from broken families. While Riley is in the bathroom, Kyla sneaks into Chris's room and gently runs her hand over his bed. The next day at class, Trisha continues flirting with the new teacher. She eventually finds out that Riley is Chris's daughter and starts getting close to her. She warns Riley not to hang out with Kyla and even invites her out shopping. Kyla gets upset when she sees them together, and when Trisha left, she tells Riley to stay away from that girl because she is too hung up on Chris. She mentions how Trisha once became obsessed with a history teacher, and it led to that teacher getting fired. That night, Kyla calls Riley and casually asks about her birthday, but soon, their talk shifts to Chris. Kyla asks if Chris usually has students crushing on him just like Trisha. Riley laughs it off and says even if they do, it doesn't matter because he's got strong values, and he is already seeing someone he met at the store. That is when Kyla realizes that it is Riley's dad whom her mom is dating. Just then, Chris shows up at their house to pick Jess up for their date. Jess didn't know Chris was Kyla's teacher and asks if Kyla is okay with her dating him. Kyla says she's fine with it. As they're about to leave, Kyla accidentally spills water on Chris. Since he doesn't have a spare shirt, Kyla suggests they just stay in and cook dinner at home. She even offers to help them prepare it. While they eat, Kyla texts Riley, saying how strange it is that their parents are suddenly dating. She tries to keep Jess and Chris from getting too close, so when the two starts making out, Kyla suddenly screams from her room. She runs downstairs claiming someone was peeking into her window while she was changing. Chris heads out to check but finds nothing. Kyla says she'd feel safer if she stayed with them, making sure that nothing romantic happens between Chris and her mom. Kyla thanks her teacher for keeping them safe, and Chris says he can stay at their place tonight since Riley is out with Trisha for the evening. The next morning, Kyla is shocked to see Chris using her shower, and when she closed the door, she couldn't help but smile. After breakfast, Chris offers to drive Kyla to school, and they stop by his house to fetch Riley. He apologizes for the shower incident, but Kyla's flirty response leaves him feeling awkward. Riley later arrives, and she notices the eerie silence between them. After class, Riley goes to the school's darkroom to find her friend. Kyla snaps, and she confronts Riley for going out with Trisha after she clearly told her not to. She insists that Trisha is only pretending to be her friend to get closer to her dad. Riley fires back, saying that Trisha told her it was actually Kyla who had been messing around with the history teacher. This makes Kyla furious. She later confronts Trisha and warns her to stay away from Riley. That night, Kyla takes a few suggestive selfies, and to gain sympathy, she shoves them into her own locker. She acts like someone humiliated her, and she uses the moment to talk to Chris. The next day, Riley and Kyla patch things up. Kyla admits she was indeed the one who was involved with the history teacher, claiming that he made her feel special. But then she lies, saying she took those selfies for that teacher, and Trisha must have gotten hold of them and spread them around. Riley says she does not deserve it, and she comforts her. That evening, Chris comes over for another date with Jess. While he's in the bathroom, Kyla picks up his phone, which is getting a bunch of bold and inappropriate messages from Trisha. She shows them to her mom, who later confronts Chris about it. Chris claims that he never texted a student in his life, but Jess doesn't believe it, and she breaks things off with him. Kyla is just in her bedroom listening, clearly pleased. A while later, a confused and heartbroken Chris is sitting in his car when Kyla suddenly comes out. She gets inside the car and listens as Chris explains his side. She starts getting touchy until she eventually climbs into his lap and starts kissing him. Chris was not able to stop her, and after their affair, Kyla goes back to her room, happy and satisfied. She takes her phone, and it is revealed it was her who was sending the texts, pretending to be Trisha. The next day at school, Trisha starts flirting again with the teacher, but Kyla interrupts this by returning Chris' jacket. Moments later, school officials arrive, and they expel Trisha from school after finding a broken phone in her locker with those printed pictures of Kyla. That night, Riley celebrates her 18th birthday. Kyla gives her a gift, but it's clear she's more interested in finding Chris. She sneaks into his room while he's unaware and starts giving him a massage. Chris is clearly not in a good place emotionally, and Kyla offers to help cheer him up. Just like before, Chris was not able to stop her advances, and they ended up in bed together. Moments later, Riley walks in and catches them in the act. Shocked, the poor daughter runs out. Chris follows, and they argue in front of everyone at the party. Riley storms off, and when Chris is about to look for her, Kyla stops him, saying that they have the house all to themselves. However, Chris rejects her, saying that his daughter is more important to him. This makes Kyla obsessively jealous of Riley. The next day at school, Chris finally sees his daughter, but she refuses to speak to him. She did, however, reach out to Jess and told her what Kyla and her father did. Jess later storms into the school, slaps Chris several times, and takes Kyla home. While confronting her daughter, Jess realizes that Kyla must have lied about Trisha. Later on, Chris apologizes to Riley, saying how he became so broken when her mom left him. Riley forgives him eventually, and the two get to reconcile. Meanwhile, Kyla calls Trisha and asks to meet. When they do, Kyla tries to get Trisha to hit her. But when Trisha refuses, Kyla begins hitting herself and even breaks her own fingers, completely out of her mind. Chris and Riley, who just pulled up in their car, hear her screaming and rush over to help. Kyla lies to Chris, saying Trisha was the one who broke her fingers. Riley quickly calls 911, and the police come and take Trisha away. When Jess sees her daughter's condition, she starts to believe that maybe Kyla wasn't lying about Trisha after all. A while later, Riley visits the hospital to tell Kyla that she still does not forgive her, and that Chris does not want to see her again. Despite this, Kyla asks for one last favor from her. She wants Riley to take her place as the camera operator for the girls' volleyball, and for the team's sake, Riley agrees. Kyla also begs for one last chance to say goodbye to Chris. But when he enters the room, Kyla changes her tone. She says that since Jess and Riley now think there's nothing going on between them, no one will get in their way anymore. Chris is clearly disturbed by how far Kyla's obsession has gone, so he tells her that he doesn't feel the same. He says that he's planning to pack up his things and leave his job just to put an end to all of this. Chris heads to the school and calls Riley to help him clean out his classroom. But as Riley walks through the hallway, the lights suddenly go out. Kyla has escaped from the hospital and has been waiting for her. She jumps out and stabs Riley with a surgical blade. Kyla then walks into Chris's classroom, holds the knife to his neck, and threatens him while trying to get close to him. But when Chris realizes what she's done to Riley, he pushes her off and tries to leave, but Kyla kicks him, making him hit his head on the table. That was the loud thud that the janitor heard earlier. Kyla drags Chris' unconscious body away, and by the time the janitor arrives, he finds her alone. As he leaves to try and find some help, the bloodied Riley appears and tells him to run. But it is too late. Kyla appears and cuts the janitor's throat. She chases after Riley until she eventually catches her. However, Riley manages to fight back and knock Kyla down, gaining control of the situation. The rescue later arrives, and both Riley and Kyla are rushed to the hospital. Months later, Chris and Riley have moved to a new town. Chris is ready to start teaching again, and Riley is excited for her first day of college. But as she drives away, we see a hooded figure step out of the shadows, hinting that Kyla is still watching them. Did you like our movie recap? Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. To be updated for new movie recaps, hit the notification bell.